Okay. Dandavat pranams to the assembled Vaishnavas. So we are in the time of Nṛsiṁha Chaturdaśī. Was yesterday where I am and where Indumati was here in Japan and Australia, but in the rest of the world, it's today. And this is such a special day for us for so many reasons, and we honor Nrsimhadev with particular attention, right? There are many Vishnu avatars, and Nrsimhadev is also Vishnu avatar. But we do give special attention to Nrsimhadev for different reasons. And in our mat, we saw that, our Gurudev held it as a grand festival, and it was a day when we would be fasting, till twilight, right, till the evening time, and then we would have a grand festival. And it was a day when Srila Gurudev would personally come and lead the program, right? In those later years, he didn't do that so much for different reasons, for health reasons, and also because he was running an international mission. But there were like only a few days in the year when he would personally come and lead the program. Gaur Purnima, Janmashtami, and a few other days. And so Nṛsiṁha Chaturdaśī was one of those days. So there is special, and originally in our Jayadwani, right, the Jai prayers that we chant, that Srila Śrī Maharaj made for our mat. Srila Śrī Maharaj includes Nrsimhadev as the remover of obstacles on the path of devotion. So Shuddha Bhakti Vigna Vinashai Nrsimhadev. He is referred to as that way, in that way. Nrsimhadev, who removes the obstacles on the path of devotion. And also Prahlad Maharaj is also glorified as Bhakta Prabhada Prahlad, the best of devotees, Prahlad. And so this is a day when we honor Nrsimhadev, but also Prahlad Maharaj. That's equally important for us. And so this pastime, I'm very happy actually thank you, Kamlila, that we get to, because yesterday I was just giving a very, very simple explanation to persons who didn't know Nrsimhadev at all. So I'm happy. I'm with translation too, so it's a little challenging. So I'm happy actually we can have some more serious discussion about this special day. So one of the most important points about this pastime is that it's very much related to the mood of pure devotion and the Lord's protection and love for his devotees, right? So Prahlad is a very key part of this. It's not only about the Lord appearing, but it's specifically for protecting his beloved devotee, right? And this is the Lord's promise, actually. This is the Lord's solemn promise. This is one of the famous verses in Bhagavad Gita, right? Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyuta nama dharmasya tadatmanam shajarmiham pirichranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha duskritam dharma samstapanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. These are two famous verses every good Hindu knows in India. That whenever there's an uprising of irreligion and a decline of proper religion, then I personally appear at that time and I protect my devotees and I destroy the wicked and I set things right. Right. So this is Krishna's promise for all time in Bhagavad Gita. And sometimes he's sending his devotees to fulfill that duty, but sometimes he's personally appearing. And so in this case, he's personally appearing to protect his beloved devotee. And Prahlad is also, very special devotee, and his example has been given specific importance by our gurus, because he marks the beginning of pure devotion. So you could say he represents the foundation of pure devotion. And so appreciating his example is very helpful for us as beginners on the path of devotion. Because if we jump too high in the beginning, we can get a very confused and mixed up idea. If we just jump to the gopis, if we just, jump to celebrating the devotion of the gopis, which of course we do honor that, but we also need to understand all the stages before that, right? Otherwise, we can become sahajiyas, we can become imitationists if we only look at the example of the Braja Gopis of Vrindavan. Of course, they are the highest devotees, but there's some gap, quite a big gap before getting to that, right? And so in different places, the position of Prahlad has been given this special importance because of that. And so for example, the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, right? This is Sanatana Goswami's scripture. He's discussing the gradation of devotion, right? And so, he does that in different ways. First he tells the story of Narada, right? And Narada is on a mission. He's on a mission to find the greatest devotee of all time. And so he's on this quest, but he engages in it in a very systematic way, right? In a very step-by-step systematic way. So in order to illustrate all of the different stages of devotion and the gradual development of bhakti, right? And so he begins by approaching devotees who represent the mood of karma mishra bhakti, right? Bhakti that is mixed with the spirit of karma. So involved in some material work, with some desire for some material gain. And so in the beginning, Narada is approaching. They are great devotees, not to diminish them. They are great devotees, but their devotion is mixed with this tendency, right? And he ultimately reaches Lord Brahma, who represents the epitome of karma mishra bhakti. Because Lord Brahma is a devotee, but he's also very involved with worldly things. He's the creator of the world, and he has some desires that are mixed in there, and that's actually fine, right? That's a beginning. That's on the ladder, right? So, and then each devotee, right, that Narada Muni is approaching, Narada is like celebrating them, honoring them, but then they're like humbly, bowing their head and deferring to a higher devotee, right? Oh, no, I'm nothing, but go to so and so, right? And so in this way, successively we're seeing these different levels, right? Stages in devotion. And so Narada comes to Lord Brahma, who's representing karma mishra, the acme of karma mishra bhakti. Then from Lord Brahma, he goes to Shiva, Lord Shiva, who in this analysis is representing jnana mishra bhakti, right? Devotion mixed with knowledge, with the aspiration for liberation, renunciation, right? These tendencies, which are ultimately, external and not intrinsic to pure devotion. So of course, Lord Shiva, actually, he's right. He's a very mysterious person. He plays many different roles. He also has a place in the highest plane. He's also a great devotee. He has a place in Vrindavan also, right? But he plays different roles. And so for the purpose of this discussion in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, he's representing this aspect of tyag, right? The element of renunciation. So jnana mishra bhakti. And so then from Lord Shiva, then Narada is pointed to Prahlad, right? And so in these previous devotees, there's been some mix, right? There's devotion, but mixed with some other tendency. But then Narada reaches Prahlad Maharaj, and now Prahlad Maharaj is like the beginning, where it's fully pure. It's pure devotion, pure love. It's completely unmixed with anything else, with any of the what Rupa Goswami refers to as covers, right? Jnana karma dhyānavritam, right, in his verse. So these other things, the tendencies for karma and jnana, they're covers, actually. They're external covers. But at the core is bhakti, pure bhakti. And so Prahlad Maharaj is representing that. You know? And he's also representing more specifically the mood of Shanta, Shanta Rasa. You know, we hear of the 5 principal relationships with the Lord, right? And so Shanta Rasa is the beginning, and that is referring to a passive relationship with the Lord. You know, so there's not active service as in Dasya Rasa, but there's this mood of full surrender and full adherence, absolute love for the Lord. And so Prahlad Maharaj, he's like represents the acme of Shantarasa. And that's beautifully illustrated in the Leela, right? Where his father is terrorizing him, you know, torturing him in all of these horrible ways, trying to kill him. You all know the pastime, right? Being thrown off of a cliff, trampled by elephants, fed poison, and all these other things. And he's completely unharmed. He's not disturbed, right? He's fully fixed in this mood of faith, seeing that Krishna is behind everything, that the Lord is behind everything. So, you know, that's one of the points about Prahlad that we take inspiration from, right? That, oh, Prahlad tolerated so much from his own father, but he maintains his mood of faith and devotion. And because of his, you know, elevated nature, then he, you know, his elevated relationship with the Lord, then, you know, the Lord was always protecting him. You know, he was so deeply situated in his mood of love that he was unharmed, and the Lord was always behind him. And then, so then in the context of Brihad Bhagavatamrita, right, then Narada goes from, then, you know, Narada goes to Prahlad and he's celebrating him, and then Prahlad points him to Hanuman, right? And because Hanuman represents the acme of Dasya Ras, you know, serve the mood of like active service to the Lord. And then from Hanuman, he goes to the Pandavas, who have this friendly Sakya Rasa, friendly relationship with the Lord. And then from the Pandavas, then going to Uddhava, who's on another level, and then from Uddhava to the Braja Gopis, the Gopis of Vrindavan. So in this sequence, right, Prahlad has this special position where he's like representing the beginning, the foundation of pure devotion to the Lord. And then you know, these, you know, this is actually quite a big section in Srimad Bhagavatam. We pulled out the books last night. It's actually quite a big section. It's like 10 chapters, and so there's the teachings of Prahlad are, you know, quite expansive. But one of the key points about Prahlad too, that's relevant to what we've been discussing, is that he specifically, you know, tells the Lord that he doesn't want anything in return for his devotion, right? And there's that moment right after Nrsimhadev has killed Hiranyakashipu, And he's in that, like, he's in this very angry mood, right? That this terrible demon tried to harm his beloved devotee. So Nrsimhadev sitting in this, and he's got blood, right? He's dripping in blood. He has this garland of intestines. And we hear, right, that so many inhabitants from other lokas, other planets, they've all gathered, and they're all like in joy and relief. This terrible demon who had been terrorizing them has been destroyed, right? And they're all singing the glories of Nrsimhadev. They're throwing flower petals, but Nrsimhadev is still in this like heavy mood of anger, and everyone's feeling like a little afraid and on edge, and he's not pacified. And then finally someone pushes Prahlad forward, and Prahlad goes to him, and then the Nrsimhadev's mood changes, and he takes him on his lap, and he's licking him like a mother lion will lick their cub. And then the Nrsimhadev's mood shifts, right? He's pacified by his beloved devotee. And then at that time he tells Prahlad, I'm so pleased by your mood of devotion. I would like to give you something. Please accept some boon from me. And then Prahlad, he's a little offended by that. Oh, there's Ati Sundari. Iva Dandavat. And so Prahlad's actually a little offended by this, and then there's this famous line, Nasa Britya Savai Vanek, right? He says that if someone is worshiping you, devoting themselves to you, and expect something in return for that, he says they are not a real servant. They are not a real devotee, but they are merchants. They're businessmen. They're doing business with you. And so, he tells Nrsimhadev, I'm fully satisfied, fully fulfilled by being able to offer my devotion to you. I don't need anything in return for that. And so this is an, sitting here and discussing this sounds like normal, right? But in the broader context of, like world religion, it's actually something of a revolutionary statement that I don't want anything in return. That there's no, so many other sections of the Vedas, there's if not expectation of material gain, at least there's the expectation of liberation, right? That's a normal thing, right? Salvation, to use other terms. That's a normal thing. I will serve you, God, and when I die, I'll go to heaven, or I'll be liberated, or whatever it is, right? Or I'll merge into the Brahmajyoti, right? There's some expectation. That's like a normal thing, actually. There's some expectation that I will get something in return. But Prahlad Maharaj is stating here that I don't want anything. I just want to love you, right? And then later on, we see in the teachings of Mahaprabhu, right? Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he elaborates further upon that. And so this is one of the key moments in the pastimes of Prahlad Maharaj, that he's making that clear point that I am serving you and loving you just for the sake of that, and I don't need anything in return, right? So these are some of the key points about Prahlad that are important for us, and so we see that our gurus have given special importance to him. And there was one occasion when Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he was sending some of his sannyasis to lead the parikrama, the Braja Mandal parikrama in Vrindavan area. And he was giving the sannyasis some guidance, right, on how to lead the pilgrimage and give the talks. And he told maybe it was Bharati Maharaj, one of his sannyas disciples, he told him that in the course of your talks during this pilgrimage, I want you to emphasize the teachings of Prahlad Maharaj, right? Because that is the foundation, right? If you're just, anyone would expect you're in Vrindavan that you would discuss Radha and Krishna and the gopis and all these things. But Saraswati Thakur says, they need to hear the teachings of Prahlad, right? They're all going to a sahajiya mood, an imitationist mood, and so you need to emphasize the teachings of Prahlad Maharaj, and so he has this very special position for us, and I'm just thinking now of some of the key verses of Prahlad Maharaj, and one of them, which is quoted by our gurus quite a lot, Prahlad Maharaj is emphasizing the importance of the devotees also. So that's another important thing that Prahlad discusses. Oh, and Prahlad also gave us the 9 practices of devotion, by the way. That's another important thing. The hearing, chanting, remembering these 9 practices, they first appear in the teachings of Prahlad, right? And there's a Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. Those verses, they're coming from Prahlad Maharaj. So that's another. I don't know if maybe they appear in other places, I'm not sure. But as I've understood, that's where they've come from. And they are in his teachings. And then he also discusses the importance of taking shelter of the Vaishnava. And I used to know those verses by heart, and now it's all a blank in my mind. It's been a while. I should have prepared that. But there's a few verses in particular which are quoted a lot by our gurus, and Prahlad is concluding with this point. You all know those verses where he speaks about chewing the chewed, right? That they're famous verses. How generally we're seeking enjoyment in this world by chewing the chewed, right? That there's no real substantial enjoyment here. It's all superficial. It's all on the cover. And oh my goodness, this is terrible. I can hear the rhythm of the shloka in my head. Oh, that's one of them. Natevidu Swarta Gatim Na Vishnu. That's one of them. He's saying that, it's saying there are these 3 verses in particular. Let me look it up. And this one is saying that Srila Maharaj likes this verse, and he's saying that people cannot understand that the real goal of life is Vishnu, and so they are living on the cover of things. Let's see, right? Natevidu Swarta Gatim Vishnu. There's another, oh yeah, I'm remembering now another, because there's so much in the teachings of Prahlad. There's another important verse from Prahlad that Srila Maharaj quotes, where he mentions, in the scriptures, so many rituals are prescribed, but the real goal of everything is swatmarpanam, self-giving. So that's another really important point in the practice of Vaishnavism, right? That the real culture is within. The real culture is the spirit of surrender, sharanagati, which is something kind of revolutionary, maybe not to us, but in the Vedic world, which involves so much ritual and hierarchy and mantras and all these things. That is something revolutionary. That actually this is an inner culture, and if we, there's not that much importance on all the rituals, but it's really about this cultivating the spirit of self-giving. There was one talk of Srila Śrī Nṛsiṁha Maharaj where someone was visiting the mat, And they saw that it was during the Chaturmasya period, right? This 4-month period that has some particular austerities associated with it. And in our mod, there's always been like some token observance of it, not like, because they're quite, there's some serious things. Like in 1 month you're meant to eat off of the ground, like with your mouth on the ground. Saraswati Thakur used to follow that, I've heard. um there's very specific things about what you're supposed to eat, what you're not supposed to eat. And so one devotee from ISKCON was visiting our mat and saw that in our mat they weren't following these things so strictly. And so they asked Srila Sridhar Maharaj about this, and Srila Sridhar Maharaj responded by quoting this verse from Prahlad Maharaj, saying that the real purpose of all of our religious practice is the culture of self-giving, Swatmarpanam. And so therefore, we're not giving that much importance to all of these other things, right? Let's see, I'm just finding this verse, these verses. Yeah, these are very nice verses. Let me see if I can find. Te vidu swarta gatim hi Vishnu. Here we are. Yeah, so actually, there's an element of humor here. When these 3 verses in particular that I'm looking at, they come about because this is at a point when Hiranyakashipu has become completely frustrated with his son, right? And in the beginning, Hiranyakashipu had asked he's having him trained, right, to be his successor, demon king. And so, he has all these special teachers instructing him in politics and money management and how to, make other people's life hell and all kinds of things. And but Prahlad's not into it, right? And Prahlad is remembering the teachings he received when he was in the womb, right? Was it Kayadu? Was that Prahlad's mother's name? I can't remember. Maybe Indumati remembers. Kayadu, or I can't remember Prahlad's mother's name, but she had been in the care of Narada Muni, right? And so Prahlad heard all these teachings in the womb, and so he accepted Narada as his guru. And so fast forward, right? He's like young boy living with his father, and then his father asks him, "Oh, what's the best thing that you've learned?" And he wants to hear something about, managing a kingdom. Kayadu, oh, thank you, Ananda Krishna. Kayadu, okay, great. So Hiranyakashipu takes his son on his lap. There's a very funny description of it in Bhagavatam. Hiranyakashipu has tears. He's feeling all this love for his son, and he's these tears gliding down his cheeks. And I think it even mentions through his beard, and he's stroking his son on his lap. Oh, my very dear boy, please tell me, what is the best thing that you've learned? And Prahlad tells him, oh, the best. And he's thinking of what he learned from Narada, right? And so he says, oh, the best thing that I've learned is that everyone should give up the world, go live in the forest and worship Vishnu. And for Hiranyakashipu, Vishnu is his number one enemy. He wants to kill Vishnu. He's very envious of Vishnu, and so he's horrified to hear this, but he's also just a little puzzled, bewildered by it, and he thinks maybe there are some spies of Lord Vishnu around who are coming and corrupting him. And so he just tells his teachers, Shanda and Amarka, I think are his teachers. He tells them, keep an eye on this boy. Make sure nobody's coming and trying to brainwash him. Protect him and teach him very well. And so he sends him back, and then some time goes by, and he calls for him again, and then asks him again, like tell me what you've learned. And I think it's at that point where the 9 practices of devotion are mentioned. And now this time, there's no room for doubt. Hiranyakashipu sees his son is just an out and out bhakta. There's no hope. And so he becomes very angry and throws him off his lap. And but then it's like little funny how the dialogue continues, because then Hiranyakashipu asks him, where did you learn this? How did you learn this? And Prahlad actually answers in a very sincere way, like trying to help his father. Like if you want to learn this too, let me tell you how. And so that's the context of these 3 verses. So let's read those, because these are quite important. And Srila Swami Maharaj Prabhupada quotes them a lot, but then Gurudev Param Guru Maharaj, they also quote them, these verses. So let's read those. So this is the first. So his father is like demanding, like, how did you learn this? And Prahlad's like sincerely giving him some advice. Oh, my dear father, let me tell you how you can also learn this. Shri Parad Uvacha Matirna Krishne Padata Sotova Mito Bipadyeta Griha Ratanam Adanta Gobir Vishatam Tamishram Puna Punascharvita Charvananam. Yeah, that's the chewing the chewed. Prahlad Maharaj replied, because of their uncontrolled senses, persons too addicted to materialistic life make progress toward hellish conditions and repeatedly chew that which has already been chewed. Their inclinations toward Krishna are never aroused, either by the instructions of others, by their own efforts, or by a combination of both. So Prahlad's telling his father, like, you're not going to be able to get this on your own. If you want to get Vishnu Bhakti, you're not going to get it on your own or by others who are similar to you. Okay, let's go to the next verse. Nate vidu sarta gatim hi vishnum durashaya jebahir arta manina andaya tander upani yamanas tepisha tantriyam urudam madha. Persons who are strongly entrapped by the consciousness of enjoying material life and who have therefore accepted as their leader or guru a similar blind man attached to external sense objects cannot understand that the goal of life is to return home, back to Godhead, and engage in the service of Lord Vishnu. As blind men guided by another blind man miss the right path and fall into a ditch, materially attached men, led by another materially attached man, are bound by the ropes of fruitive labor, which are made of very strong cords, and they continue again and again in materialistic life, suffering the threefold miseries. And now this verse is giving the solution, where he tells his father, you need to bathe in the foot dust of the devotees of Vishnu. Which of course is the greatest insult to Hiranyakashipu. Not even Vishnu's foot dust, but the foot dust of his devotees. So this is the verse, very beautiful verse. Naisham matistavad adukramangrim Sprishatyanartha pagamo yadartha mahiyasam pararajobhishekam. So abhishek, this word, everyone knows the word abhishek. You need to take bath in the foot dust of the devotees. Niskinchananam navranita javat. Unless they smear upon their bodies the dust of the lotus feet of a Vaishnava, completely freed from material contamination, persons very much inclined toward materialistic life cannot be attached to the lotus feet of the Lord, who is glorified for his uncommon activities. Only by becoming Krishna conscious and taking shelter at the lotus feet of the Lord in this way can one be freed from material contamination. So this is another key point in the teachings of Prahlad, the importance of the Vaishnava, taking shelter of the Vaishnava. And so then this is the point. Then Hiranyakashipu becomes, very, 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 very angry, and orders his guards to kill Prahlad. And so that goes on for some time, right? They're trying so hard to kill him, but he has the protection of Lord Vishnu. And so then he decides he just has to kill him himself. Right? And so then there's that moment, right, where, let me try and find, there's a really nice verse at the moment when the Nrsimhadev appears. Let me see, maybe it's in the next past chapter. So yeah, it's in the next chapter. Oh, then the next chapter is Prahlad instructing his fellow schoolmates, right? That's another really wonderful thing in the pastime of Prahlad. I put them all away. I had the books, but I put them all away, and it'd be difficult to find. So there's some really beautiful paintings there of Prahlad teaching his little classmates, and there's some very beautiful descriptions there too. Because they can see like something's different about Prahlad, right? And so they ask him, like, tell us, what's your secret, or something like that. And then there's this description of very beautiful of them, like with their eyes like bumblebees, like big wide eyes, and they're little like 5-year-old boys. And they're looking at Prahlad like very eagerly with like wide eyes, and then Prahlad is happily instructing them and in the glories of Vishnu and Kirtan. They have Kirtan, and so that's another very sweet aspect in Prahlad's pastimes. And let me find that. Oh, very nice. Thank you, Ananda. Beautiful. And let me find the verse when the Nrsimhadev appears. And then the next chapter is Narada Muni's teachings to Prahlad in the womb, what he learned, he's sharing with his classmates. Okay, and then chapter 8. So this is all Canto 7, right? Pretty much all of Canto 7 is telling the story of Prahlad and the Nrsimhadev. There's a long backstory too, right? Okay, let's find this verse. So Hiranyakashipu, he's decided finally he has to kill this boy himself, and he mentioned some things there, like, even though you're my son, you're my enemy. And he says, just like if there's gangrene on your body, you have to cut it out, even though it's your own body. And so this is his logic. So then Hiranyakashipu, he comes out and he's challenging Prahlad. Where is this God of yours? Where is this Vishnu? You say he's everywhere. Is he in this pillar? And Prahlad, he's always shanti. Prahlad is always calm and steady in his faith. And yes, he's everywhere. And so then Hiranyakashipu strikes that pillar, and Nrsimha Dev appears. And then there's this beautiful verse, and I heard Gurudev chanting this verse, and with so much relish. It's a really beautiful verse. Here it is. Satyam vidatam nija britya bhashitam yaptim chabuteshrakileshu chatmana adrishya tatyad bhutarupam udvahan stambe sabayam namrgam namanusham. This is my favorite, the first line, saying that to prove that the words of his devotee were true. Right? Oh, thank you. Very nice. Satyam vidatam. Such a beautiful verse. Satyam vidatam. So to prove, right? The Lord always wants to back his devotees. And so Prahlad had declared, yes, the Lord is everywhere. And so the Lord wants to prove his devotees' words are correct. So Satyam Vidata Nija Brit, his own Nija Britya means his own servant, his own devotee, to prove that his words were correct. So to prove that the statement of his servant Prahlad Maharaj was substantial, in other words, to prove that the Supreme Lord is present everywhere, even within the pillar of an assembly hall, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, exhibited a wonderful form never before seen. The form was neither that of a man nor that of a lion. Thus the Lord appeared in his wonderful form in the assembly hall. Yeah. And, the Lord is also, very respectful. He honored Lord Brahma's boon, right? Because in the backstory, right, we're told Hiranyakashipu, he wanted to become immortal. He wanted to be able to kill Vishnu. And so when he performed all those austerities, and he was able to finally get Lord Brahma to come and give him attention, and Lord Brahma asks him, what boon do you want? And Hiranyakashipu says, well, I want to live forever. And Lord Brahma says, well, sorry, I can't do that. I'm going to die too. Lord Brahma also dies. He lives for billions of years, but he also dies. And so he says, I'm sorry, that's not within my jurisdiction. And so then Hiranyakashipu comes up with this legal document, okay, I'm not going to die in the day or the night. I'm not going to die in the sky or the ground. I'm not going to be killed by a human or by an animal. Like this, he has his long list. I'm sure some of you remember more. And so Lord Brahma, he says, okay, I can promise that much, right? And so Nrsimha Dev, he honors all of these stipulations, right? He kills him on his lap. So it's not on the earth, it's not in the sky. He's a half man, half lion. It's twilight, right? So it's not day, not night. He uses his nails because that was another one. No weapon can kill him. So he uses his nails to destroy him. And it's not inside and not outside. That was another one. It's in the courtyard. It's like a veranda courtyard thing. So Nrsimha Dev, he respects all of these points, which I find appreciable. He's the Supreme Lord. He didn't need to do that, but he moves respectfully. He honors his environment. and and it's, there's a whole description in Bhagavatam of this fight that takes place, because that's another interesting thing. The Nrsimhadev doesn't kill him at once, which he could have done. He could have just poked him with his nail and it's over. But that would be a little boring, right? And so there's this whole like drama that plays out, and where Nrsimhadev is letting Hiranyakashipu think that, he might just do this, right? And he's letting Hiranyakashipu think he has a chance, and we hear the devas are all like watching from the sky, and they're all like on the edge of their seats, like, no, like, no, don't let him get away. So it's interesting because it mentions there that the Lord allows people. There we go. There's the battle. And it's interesting just how inflated the ego can be. Like, how could Hiranyakashipu think he has a chance? But that's the power of the ego. And so, this is one way in which the Lord operates. He lets people play out their imagination for some time, right? He's not forcing, pushing too much in anything, but he lets people live in their illusion for some time. He lets them have that experience for some time. But finally, their reactions, have to take effect, right? The reactions to their actions has to bear fruit, right? But he lets them have that play, that illusion for some period of time, right? And so that can also, we may feel sometimes that we can have some patience, when we see the behavior of others as causing disturbance. Oh, Krishna's just letting them have their fun for now, but eventually, they will have to face the reactions, right? You see the consequences, face the consequences of their actions. And then finally, Hiranyakashipu is killed. But it's also interesting to note, then later when Prahlad and Nrsimhadev are having this dialogue, then Prahlad, right? So Prahlad had declined any boon, but Nrsimhadev like presses him again. And then one thing he actually requests is that his father can be liberated, right? So, how merciful is Prahlad, right? Even though his father treated him in such a horrendous way, he has this mood of mercy. Is quite extraordinary, despite everything. Well, just at our time here. Does anyone else want to share any thoughts? Oh, and of course, yeah, we have to remember too. We mentioned in the beginning, but this is also, it's really a profound significance that our Gurudev Srila Govinda Maharaj, he came to the shelter of his guru on this day. Like, that's not an accident, right? That's quite significant, right? On this day, which is, really standing for the principles of pure devotion and surrender. It was on this day that our guru, in his Leela, he came to take shelter of Srila Śrī Maharaj. And so that's also very significant. And in our program last night, we sang this beautiful song, Atma Nivedan, right? And I remember Gurudev, he sang that song one year when we were in Navadvip on this day, on the Śrī Nṛsiṁha Chaturdaśī, he sang that song, which, it's so appropriate that because that beautiful song is discussing this mood of surrender, right? And so, that's very significant. Gurudev's whole life, it's illustrating, all of these principles of surrender. And and in that first meeting that they had, right, what was it that Śrī Maharaj asked him? Can you follow me and not your mind? Right? Can you follow me and not your mind? So that's, also illustrating this key point in the mood of surrender, right? And of course, that's a whole wonderful pastime. How Gurudev came, but maybe we're out of time. Very sweet, sweet pastime. But yeah, we have special remembrance of our Gurudev and gratitude. Our Gurudev, I think I remember him referring to this as his birthday in a sense, the day that he took shelter. That is our real birthday. The day we take shelter. That's when our real life begins, you can say, right? The day we take shelter of Guru and Vaishnava. That's the beginning of real life. All right. Anyone want to add anything or bring anything up before we close for today? Sulalita's up now. Now it must be 4 a.m. for her. It was 3 a.m. when we started. So special appreciation, Sulalita. I'm sorry, it's not the best time. Yeah. All right. Jai Bhagavan Nrsimhadeva ki Jai, Shuddha Bhakti Vigna Vinashaya Nrsimhadev ki Jai, Bhakta Prabhata Prahlad Maharaj ki Jai, Jai Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai, Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai, all the assembled devotees ki Jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai. And wishing you a happy Nrsiṁha Chaturdaśī. I know some of you are about to go join the program. I'm sure that will be very wonderful. And so look forward to our next meeting.
Dandavat Vishaka.
Dandavad Sulalita,
Sorry,
Dandavad.
I couldn't answer because my father is sleeping now.
Right. I understand.
Very
Happy
happy
you
to
could
see
join.
you. Very happy to see you.
Happy to hear you. Happy to have you with us, Sulalita. Okay. We will see you all next time. Dandavad.